So we have exciting news today. Remix was acquired by Shopify. And what does that mean for the community, for the project, and for Seasoned, because we've been betting heavily on Remix. First thing I wanted to talk about is I believe, and I do believe in Remix a lot. And I think it is the revolution of the decade, at least. And when I see such important news, I get excited because I've seen Shopify invest in open source projects in the past. And they are very good at it. And they tend, from what I know, to respect the independence of the maintainers. And basically what happened today is Shopify announced that they acquired the Remix framework, their technology, and their team is joining Shopify's team. And I believe they will be joining Shopify with a lot of independence, and they will continue to make Remix the huge framework it's supposed to be. And now with long-term support and financial support and more usage. And one of the arguments people had with Remix when we were selling Remix for people is that Remix is not used by many big companies so far. And that's true. It is being used by a bunch of big companies. I don't have the names right now, but if we look it up, we'll find that it's already being used by a bunch of big companies. But with Shopify leading the project, it will be used by a ton of big companies. And that's very, very good for the project. And I wanted to get into detail about a couple of things. Now that I talked about my initial reaction, I want to share more personal for me and for Seasoned take on it. For us, it's a validation of a huge bet we made. For a little while, it felt like, are we crazy by betting on this new technology? And I was thinking, whenever I thought about this way, am I crazy? Are we like betting the house, betting the farm on something that might not become popular? Whenever that happened, I went and started coding in Remix, and I reminded myself why we were making the bet. So because it's so damn good to code in Remix, I was always reminded, and my impulse to bet on it was renewed. But even so, not having support like this, like support from Shopify, a big company, did feel like a riskier bet for us at Seasoned. And I wanted to share with you what did we say about Remix, I think back in March this year, exactly at the time when we decided to be a sponsor at RemixConf, their first conference. Just so you know, how did we feel about Remix back then? And then I'll share how we feel about Remix right now. This is our website for people coming from the RemixConf website. Basically talks about what we do, but this page right here talks about what did we see in Remix. The phrase on the left, we believe Remix is the revolution of the decade, is very true. The text at the right, when we saw the power and simplicity of Remix, we immediately knew it would also allow us to create better apps faster. So much so that we decided to go all in. We've been around open source for so long to know when something truly revolutionary comes along. Are you going to miss the revolution of the decade thinking it's just another framework? When we wrote this, we were speaking from the heart. Not from the heart, from experience as well, because we've seen other frameworks emerge. We've been very early adopters of Ruby on Rails, and then of React, and then of React Native, and then of Remix now. But also we were speaking from the heart, and the exact same feeling is present today when Remix is announced to have been acquired by Shopify. The only difference is now we'll all have more firepower. The community will have more firepower. So for me, it's the best outcome ever. Remix will be able to play at the same level as React does, because having a huge company, not as big of course as Meta, but having a huge company backing the project allows Remix to play at the same level at React and other frameworks. And I think it will be incredible what happens. We'll see, of course, how the relationship goes. There's politics, there's management, and there's all this adaptation that has to happen. From what I know from the Remix team, Ryan, Florence, and MJ are great at sticking to their guns whenever hard discussions arise, and also they really love the open source project. So I don't think they would join forces with Shopify if the Remix team were not really happy. And if you see their tweets today, they're very, very open and transparent about their feelings about it. And it shows. And to finalize this short video, I just wanted to end by showing a little bit about the 2 posts from Shopify announcing the acquisition, because I think they tell us a lot about how much Shopify is already invested in Remix. It's not an acquisition of just the talent. They're not only making a acqui-hire just to get the very talented team that Remix has. They are invested in the platform and in the philosophy behind Remix, which is very important. I hope, of course, it turns out great, as I'm saying. Let's just check it out a little bit. So here is the blog post where Shopify announces the acquisition. Is by, I hope I don't butcher his name, Dion Almayer. And basically they say, we're very excited to announce it, etc., etc. And they tell the story of how they were using Remix. For example, here when they say Shopify and Remix have many shared philosophies and design principles, and there's a lot of places here where Dion shares his experience using Remix and also the experience of using Remix in Hydrogen, their new headless storefront framework. And we're gonna get to Hydrogen in a second. The most important part is at the end, where they say we're serious about the open web. And here they address folks who are not using Remix for e-commerce. So if you aren't building for commerce or Shopify, this is still good news. Then they address everybody and say, we are committed to maintain this open source project. Here, Shopify was built by entrepreneurs, so we understand how important it is that the Remix team has the space to do what they do best. So this blog post alone would make me optimistic about it, but the harder part to interpret, and the part where I think I can contribute the most for you who's just watching the movement and trying to understand what will happen, is the roadmap for Hydrogen. As I said, Hydrogen is Shopify's headless storefront framework, where you can use Shopify as the back office of your e-commerce, but build a 100% customized storefront. And they do this with components and the whole UI. You can use Hydrogen for building the UI. It's a very interesting framework. Haven't used it so far, but I've been reading about it, of course, after this news. Basically here, they tell us version 1.0 of Hydrogen was based on React Server components, and now they are ditching, at least temporarily, React Server components to use Remix's pattern of data loading and mutations. They share the roadmap for what Hydrogen will become soon, and it's basically based on Remix 100%. Like they'll do data loading, routing, error handling, and mutations with Remix. Right now they have a lot of pain around nested routes, and nested routes is a core feature of Remix. They want to add progressive enhancement, and Remix is great at that. A lot of stuff that will help, but the more important part is when we take a look down here at the code they are creating. And the code they are creating for Hydrogen 2.0 is already based on Remix. If you take a look here, this is Remix code, only importing from a specific Remix package for Oxygen is Hydrogen's hosting service. And here they have another one that's Shopify/Hydrogen Remix. So it's already very remixy. Here you have a loader function, and then you have export default for your route, and you use loader data. The only difference is that the use loader data is coming from this Oxygen package. Don't know how it will work yet, but it looks like they are incorporating Remix, not only under the hood. This is very important. They are exposing Remix's APIs to Hydrogen users. I've never seen a tech acquisition happens so fast in terms of the day they announced the acquisition, they already have code to share where they are exposing the relationship between Shopify and Remix so well. Basically, currently they created their router from scratch, inspired by Next.js routing patterns, and now they're gonna switch Hydrogen's patterns to Remix's patterns with nested routing, which is very important. And when they show us how to create UIs with this preview of what Hydrogen 2.0 will be, they basically tell us build software just like you do in Remix. This is Remix code. This is Remix code. And error handling and loading fallbacks, basically Remix code with a hint of using the deferred API on Remix in the future. So I wanted to share this with you because the piece of information that gave me the most confidence that Shopify will actually invest in Remix is this last piece, where their new way of building storefronts is 100% coupled with Remix, and not coupled in the technical sense, like in terms of it's a joint venture more than becoming one thing. Remix will stay Remix, Hydrogen will stay Hydrogen, but they will be joining forces to create better storefronts for e-commerce. This movement is so exciting that I can't wait to see what will happen next. And let's keep on building on the web. Let's keep on investing on Remix, and let's make the web the thing we all deserve.